you do not arrange your times with the prince. He will seek you out for one-on-one company if he wants it. If you are in a larger social setting and he is present, that is different, but you do not go to him without invitation. While no one expects you to get along with the other 34 contestants, you are not to fight with them or sabotage them. If you are found laying hands on another contestant, causing her stress, stealing from her, or doing anything that might diminish her personal relationship with the prince, it is in his hands whether or not to dismiss you on the spot. Your only romantic relationship will be with Prince Maxon. If you are found writing love notes to someone here, or caught in a relationship with another person in the palace, that is considered treason and is punishable by death. Mom rolled her eyes at that one, though that might be the only rule that worried me. If you are found breaking any of Ilia's written laws, you will receive the punishment tied to that offense. Your status as one of the selected does not put you above the law. You must not wear any clothes or eat any food that is not specifically provided for you by the palace. This is a security issue, and it will be strictly enforced. On Fridays, you will be present for all Capitol Report broadcasts. On occasion, but always with warning, there will be cameras or photographers in the palace, and you will be courteous and allow them to see your lifestyle with the prince. For each week you stay at the palace, your family will be compensated. I will give you your first check before I leave. Also, you should not stay at the palace. An aide will help you adjust your life after the selection. Your aide will assist you with the financial preparations before you leave for the palace, as well as help you seek new housing and employment afterward. Should you make it to the top 10, you will be considered an elite. Once you reach that status, you will be required to learn about the particular inner workings of the life and obligations you would have as a princess. You are not permitted to seek out such details before that time. From this moment on, your status is a 3. A 3? Mom and I both exclaimed. Yes, after the selection, it's hard for girls to go back to their old lives. 2s and 3s do fine, but 4s and below tend to struggle. You are a 3 now, but the rest of your family remains 5s. Should you win, you and your entire family become 1s as members of the royal family. 1s. The word was faint on Mom's lips. And, should you go to the end, you will marry Prince Maxon and become the crown princess of Ilia and take on all the rights and the responsibilities of that title. Do you understand? Yes, that part, as big as it sounded, was the easiest to bear. Very good. If you could just sign this form saying you've heard all the official rules, and Miss Singer, if you could just sign this form saying you received your check, please. I didn't see the sum, but it made her eyes well. I was miserable at the idea of leaving, but I was sure if I went, there only to be sent back the next day. This check alone would provide us with enough money for a very comfortable year. And when I got back, everyone would want me to sing. I'd have plenty of work. But would I be allowed to sing as a 3? If I had to pick one of the career paths of a 3, I think I'd teach. Maybe I could at least help others learn music. Skinny collected his forms and stood to leave, thanking us for our time and for the tea. I would have to interact with only one more official before I left, and that would be my aide, the person who would guide me through getting from my house to the send-off to the airport. And then I'd be on my own. Our guest asked if I would show him to the door, and Mom consented, as she wanted to start dinner. I didn't like being alone with him, but it was a short walk. One more thing, Skinny said, with his hand on the door. This isn't exactly a rule, but it would be unwise of you to ignore it. When you are invited to do something with Prince Maxon, you do not refuse, no matter what it is. Dinner, outings, kisses, more than kisses, anything. Do not turn him down. Excuse me? Was the same man who made me sign a form affirming my purity, suggesting that I let Maxon have it if he wanted it? I know it sounds unbecoming, but it would not behoove you to reject the prince under any circumstances. Good evening, Miss Singer. I was disgusted, revolted. The law, Ilian law, was that you were to wait until marriage. It was an effective way of keeping diseases at bay, and it helped keep the castes intact. Illegitimates were thrown into the street to become eights, and the penalty for being discovered, either by a person or through pregnancy, was jail time. If someone was even suspicious, you could spend a few nights in a cell. True, it restricted me from being intimate with the one person I loved, and that had bothered me, but now that Aspen and I were over, I was glad I'd been forced to save myself. I was infuriated. Hadn't I just signed a form saying I'd be punished if I broke Ilian law? I wasn't above the rules. That was what he'd said. But apparently the prince was, and I felt dirty, lower than an 8. "America, honey, it's for you," Mom sang. I'd heard the doorbell myself, but was in no rush to answer it. If this was another person asking for an autograph, I didn't think I'd be able to handle it. I walked down the hall and turned the corner. There, with a handful of wild flowers, was Aspen. "Hello, America." His voice was restrained, almost professional. "Hello, Aspen." Mine was weak. "These are from Camber and Celia. They wanted to wish you luck." He closed the distance between us and gave me the flowers. Flowers from his sisters, not from him. "That's awfully sweet," Mom exclaimed. I had almost forgotten she was in the room. "Aspen, I'm glad you're here." I tried to sound as removed as he had. "I've made a mess trying to pack. Could you help me clean?" With my mom there, he had to accept. As a general rule, 6s didn't turn down work. We were the same in that way. He exhaled through his nose and nodded once. Aspen followed me down the hall. I thought about how many times I'd wanted just this, for Aspen to walk in my house and come to my room. Could the circumstances have been any worse? I pushed open the door to my room, and Aspen laughed out loud. "Did you let a dog do your packing?" Shut up. I had a little trouble finding what I was looking for. In spite of myself, I smiled. He went to work, setting things upright and folding shirts. I helped, of course. "Aren't you taking any of these clothes?" he whispered. "No, they dress me from tomorrow on out." "Oh, wow. Were your sisters disappointed?" "No, actually." He shook his head in disbelief. "The moment they saw your face, the whole house erupted. They're crazy about you, my mom in particular." "I love your mom. She's always really nice to me." A few minutes passed in silence as my room went slowly back to normal. "Your picture," he began, "was absolutely beautiful." It hurt to have him tell me I was beautiful. It wasn't fair, not after everything he'd done. "It was for you," I whispered. "What?" "It's just, I thought you were going to be proposing soon." My voice was thick. Aspen was quiet for a moment, choosing his words. "I'd been thinking about it, but it doesn't matter anymore." "It does. Why didn't you tell me?" He rubbed his neck, deciding. "I was waiting." "For what? What could possibly be worth waiting for?" "For the draft." That was an issue. It was hard to know whether to wish to be drafted or not. In Ilia, every 19-year-old male was eligible for it. Soldiers were chosen at random twice a year to catch everyone within 6 months of their birthday. You served from the time you were 19 until you were 23, and it was coming soon. We'd talked about it, of course, but not in a realistic way. I guess we both hoped that if we ignored the draft, it would ignore us too. It was a blessing in that being a soldier meant you were an automatic 2. The government trained you and paid you for the rest of your life. The drawback was you never knew where you would go. They sent you away from your province for sure. They assumed you were more likely to be lenient with the people you know. You might end up at the palace or in some other province's local police force, or you might end up in the army, shipped off to war. Not very many men sent into battle made it home. If a man wasn't married before the draft, he'd almost always wait. You'd be separated from your wife for 4 years at the very best. At the worst, she'd be a young widow. I didn't want you to do that. I just didn't want to do that to you," he whispered. "I understand." He straightened up, trying to change the subject. "So, what are you taking to the palace?" "A change of clothes to wear whenever they finally kick me out. Some books and pictures. I've been told I won't need my instruments. Anything I want will be there already. So that little bag there, that's it." The room was tidy now, and that backpack seemed huge for some reason. The flowers he brought looked so bright on my desk compared to the drab things I owned. Or maybe it was just that everything seemed paler now that it was over. That's not much, he noted. I've never needed very much to be happy. I thought you knew that. He closed his eyes. Stop it, America. I did the right thing. The right thing? Aspen, you made me believe we could do it. You made me love you, and then you talked me into this damn contest. Do you know they're practically shipping me off to be one of Maxon's playthings? He whipped his head around to face me. What? I'm not allowed to turn him down, not for anything. Aspen looked sick, angry. His hands clenched up into fists. Even if he doesn't want to marry you, he could... Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't know. He took a few deep breaths. But if he does pick you, that'll be good. You deserve to be happy. That was it. I slapped him. You idiot. I whisper-yelled at him. I hate him. I loved you. I wanted you. All I ever wanted was you. His eyes welled up, but I couldn't care. He'd hurt me enough, and now it was his turn. I should go, he said, and started heading to the door. Wait, I didn't pay you. America, you don't have to pay me. He went to leave again. Aspen Ledger, don't you dare move. My voice was fierce, and he stopped, finally paying attention to me. That'll be good practice when you're a 1. If it hadn't been for his eyes, I would have thought it was a joke, not an insult. I just shook my head and went to my desk, pulling out all of the money I'd earned by myself. I put every last bit of it in his hands. America, I'm not taking this. The hell you aren't. I don't need it, and you do. If you ever loved me at all, you'll take it. Hasn't your pride done enough for us today? I could feel part of him shut down. He stopped fighting. Fine. And here, I dug behind my bed, pulled out my tiny jar of pennies, and poured them into his hand. One rebellious penny that must have been sticky stayed glued to the bottom. Those were always yours. You should use them. Now, I didn't have anything of his, and once he had spent those pennies out of desperation, he wouldn't have anything of mine. I felt the hurt coming up. My eyes got wet, and I breathed hard to keep the sobs back. I'm sorry, Mayor. Good luck. He shoved the money and the pennies into his pockets and ran out. This wasn't how I thought I'd cry. I was expecting huge, jarring sobs, not slow, tiny tears. I started to put the jar on a shelf, but I noticed that little penny again. I put my finger in the jar and got it unstuck. It rattled around in the glass all by itself. It was a hollow sound, but I could feel it echo in my chest. I knew, for better or for worse, I wasn't really free of Aspen, not yet. Maybe not ever. I opened the backpack, put in my jar, and sealed it away. May snuck into my room, and I took one of those stupid pills. I fell asleep holding her, finally feeling numb. Chapter 7. The next morning, I dressed myself in the uniform of the selected, black pants, white shirt, and my province flower, a lily, in my hair. My shoes I got to pick. I chose worn-out red flats. I figured I should make it clear from the start that I wasn't princess material. We were set to leave for the square shortly. Each of the selected was getting a send-off in her home province today, and I wasn't looking forward to mine. All those people staring while I did nothing more than stand there, the whole thing already felt ridiculous, as I had to be driven the 2 short miles for security reasons. The day began uncomfortably. Kenna came with James to send me off, which was kind of her, considering she was pregnant and tired. Coda came by too, though his presence added more tension than ease. As we walked from our house to the car we'd been provided, Coda was by far the slowest, letting the few photographers and well-wishers who were there to get a good look at him. Dad just shook his head. May was my only solace. She held my hand and tried to inject some of her enthusiasm into me. We were still linked when I stepped into the crowd square. It seemed like everyone in the province of Carolina came out to send me off, or just see what the big deal was.